Ghostface, one of the most iconic killers in horror history. But what if everything you think you know about Ghostface is wrong? Because the truth is far more disturbing than just a mask or a killer hiding behind it. Ghostface was never just one person. It was never just about Billy Loomis or Stu Macker. It was something bigger. Something that started as a simple act of violence but slowly turned into a system. A pattern. A legacy that refuses to die. And today, we're going to uncover the true origin of Ghostface and Scream, not just how it started, but why it keeps coming back. Because once you understand this, you'll realize something terrifying. Ghostface was never meant to end. Before the killings began, Woodsboro was just another quiet town. Peaceful, predictable, the kind of place where nothing ever really happens. And that's exactly why it was the perfect place for something like Ghostface to be born. Because horror doesn't just come from darkness, it comes from contrast. When something violent happens in a place that feels safe, it hits harder. It feels more real, more personal. And that's what made the first Ghostface killings so effective. They didn't just break the peace. They destroyed the illusion of safety. To understand Ghostface, you have to understand Billy Loomis. On the surface, Billy was just another teenager. Quiet. Mysterious. Slightly off, but nothing too obvious. But beneath that calm exterior was something much darker. Billy wasn't just angry. He was broken. His family had fallen apart. His mother had abandoned him. And in his mind, there was someone to blame for all of it. That pain, that resentment, it needed an outlet. And that's where Ghostface begins. Not with a mask, but with emotion. But Billy didn't act alone. Stu Macker was the second half of the equation, and in many ways, the more dangerous one. Because while Billy had a reason, Stu didn't need one. He represented chaos. Influence. The idea that someone could be pulled into something horrific, just for the thrill of it. And when Billy and Stu came together, they created something unique. A shared identity. This is the moment Ghostface stops being a person, and becomes a concept. The mask changed everything. The moment Billy and Stu put it on, they weren't themselves anymore. They became something else. Something anonymous. Something unpredictable. The Ghostface mask didn't just hide their identity, it erased it. And that's the most important part of its origin. Because once identity is removed, anyone can become Ghostface. The first attacks weren't just random acts of violence. They were carefully designed. The phone calls, the questions, the calm voice on the other end, all of it was part of a system. Ghostface didn't just want to kill. It wanted to create fear. To build tension. To play with its victims before the final moment. This is where Ghostface becomes different from every other killer. Because now it's not just murder. It's a game. The game is what makes Ghostface powerful. Because fear is an instant. It builds. And Ghostface understands that better than anyone. By turning each encounter into a psychological experience, it doesn't just scare its victims. It controls them. Every question, every second of silence, every unexpected movement, it all adds to the fear. And the longer the fear lasts, the stronger Ghostface becomes. Most people think Ghostface began with Billy and Stu. But that's not entirely true. Because what they created didn't end with them. It continued. It evolved. It spread. And that's where the real origin of Ghostface begins. Not as a person, but as an idea. Because once the mask existed, once the idea was out there, it was only a matter of time before someone else picked it up. And when they did, Ghostface stopped being a killer and became a legacy. The moment Billy and Stu died, everyone thought it was over. The killers were gone. The nightmare had ended. But they were wrong. Because something far more dangerous had already been created. Not a person, not a plan, but an idea. And ideas don't die. After the Woodsboro murders, the story didn't disappear. It spread. News reports, rumors, conversations, everyone was talking about Ghostface. What started as a local tragedy quickly became something bigger. A story. A mystery. A legend. And that's the moment everything changed. Because when something becomes a story, it becomes repeatable. This is where Ghostface becomes truly terrifying. Because unlike other killers, Ghostface doesn't need to survive to continue. All it needs is someone willing to take the mask. And that's exactly what happens. New killers emerge, new motives appear, but the identity remains the same. Ghostface is reborn, again and again and again. But here's something interesting. Why do all Ghostface killers follow similar patterns? The phone calls, the games, the horror movie references. Why not just kill quickly and disappear? The answer is simple. Because Ghostface isn't just about killing. It's about recreating the experience. Each new killer isn't just committing murder. They're trying to become part of the story. Ghostface exists inside horror culture. Every killer who takes on the mask understands the rules of horror movies. They know the cliches. They know the expectations. And they use that knowledge to their advantage. This creates something unique. As the story continues, something even stranger happens. The Woodsboro murders get turned into movies. Fiction based on reality. And then those movies start influencing new killers. This creates a loop. Reality becomes fiction. Fiction inspires reality. And Ghostface exists in between. Neither fully real, nor fully fictional. And that's what makes it so powerful. A killer that is aware of horror and weaponizes it. That's why Ghostface feels smarter. More unpredictable. Because it's not just acting randomly. It's following a script. Each new Ghostface killer brings a different reason for the violence. Some want revenge. Some want fame. Some are obsessed with the past. But no matter the motive, they all choose the same identity.
Why?
Because Ghostface gives their actions meaning. It turns random violence into something bigger. Something remembered. Something iconic. The mask doesn't just hide identity. It gives power. When someone wears it, they're no longer limited by who they used to be. They can act without fear. Without consequences, at least in their mind. This psychological shift is what allows ordinary people to do extraordinary and terrifying things. Ghostface isn't just a disguise. It's a transformation. Every time a new killer takes on the mask, Ghostface becomes stronger. Not physically, but symbolically. The legend grows. The fear spreads. People start recognizing the mask instantly. And that recognition amplifies the terror. Because now, the moment you see Ghostface, you already know what's coming. Here's something most people don't notice. Every Ghostface killer believes they're in control. They think they're the ones using the mask. But in reality, the mask is using them. It shapes their behavior. It defines their actions. It forces them to follow the same patterns, the same rules. Ghostface isn't just an identity people adopt. It's an identity that controls them. Think about other horror villains. Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees. They're singular, fixed. But Ghostface? It evolves. It adapts. It survives through others. And that makes it something completely different. Not a character, but a system. At this stage, Ghostface is no longer just a series of murders. It has become a legacy. A chain reaction that continues with each new generation. And the scariest part? It doesn't need a reason anymore. The existence of the mask is enough. But here's where things get even darker. Because if Ghostface is a system, if it's something that controls the people who wear it, then the real question is, why do people keep choosing it? What pushes someone to stop being themselves and become Ghostface? At this point, we know Ghostface isn't just a killer. It's a legacy, a system, an idea that keeps coming back. But that raises a terrifying question. Backhand index pointing right, why would anyone choose to become Ghostface? Why would someone willingly put on that mask, knowing exactly what it represents? Because the truth is,
People don't just wear the mask.
Backhand index pointing right, they become it. Every Ghostface killer starts the same way. Not with violence, but with pressure. Something inside them begins to crack. It could be trauma, rejection, jealousy, anger, or sometimes something even simpler, the feeling of being invisible. This is the real starting point of Ghostface. Because before someone becomes a killer, they become disconnected. The core of every Ghostface is one thing. Backhand index pointing right, the need for control. In their normal lives, they feel powerless, ignored, trapped in a situation they can't escape. But the mask changes that. The moment they put it on, everything flips. They are no longer the victim. They become the one in control. They decide who lives, who dies, who feels fear. And that power is addictive. Becoming Ghostface isn't instant. It's a process. At first, it feels like a role, like acting. But slowly, that role starts to take over. The line between the real person and the mask begins to blur. Until eventually, backhand index pointing right, there is no difference anymore. They stop pretending to be Ghostface. They are Ghostface. There's another layer to this. Fear doesn't just affect the victim. It affects the killer too. The adrenaline, the tension, the chase. It creates a rush. And for some, that rush becomes addictive. They don't just want to kill. Backhand index pointing right, they want to feel something. And Ghostface gives them that feeling. Many Ghostface killers share another trait. Backhand index pointing right obsession. With the past. With specific people. With stories. They replay events over and over in their mind. Until reality starts to feel like something they can rewrite. The mask becomes their tool to do exactly that. To take control of a story they feel trapped inside. And change the ending. Many Ghostface killers share another trait. Backhand index pointing right obsession. With the past. With specific people. With stories. They replay events over and over in their mind. Until reality starts to feel like something they can rewrite. The mask becomes their tool to do exactly that. To take control of a story they feel trapped inside. And change the ending. Here's where it gets even darker. Most Ghostface killers don't see themselves as villains. In their mind, backhand index pointing right, they're justified. They believe they have a reason. A purpose, revenge, justice, recognition. Whatever it is, it feels real to them. And that belief allows them to go further than they ever thought possible. But no matter how far they go, there's always a conflict. Because deep down, they're still human. There's still a part of them that remembers who they used to be. And that creates tension,
Fear. Doubt.
which is why Ghostface killers often make mistakes. They're not perfect. Backhand index pointing right because they're fighting themselves. But even when the killer is gone, the mask remains. And that's the real problem. Because the mask doesn't just represent violence. Backhand index pointing right, it represents possibility. The possibility that anyone, at any time, could become Ghostface. This is what makes Ghostface different from every other horror villain. You can't prepare for it. You can't predict it. Because you don't know who it is. And that uncertainty, backhand index pointing right, is the real horror. It creates a constant sense of tension. A feeling that something could happen at any moment. At this point, Ghostface becomes a loop. A cycle that feeds itself. Someone feels broken. They seek control. They become Ghostface. They create fear. That fear inspires someone else. And the cycle continues. Backhand index pointing right over and over again. What is the true origin of Ghostface? It's not a person. It's not a single event. Backhand index pointing right, it's a mindset. A pattern of thoughts and emotions that can exist in anyone. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because it means Ghostface isn't limited to one place. It isn't limited to one story. It can happen anywhere. What is the true origin of Ghostface? It's not a person. It's not a single event. Backhand index pointing right, it's a mindset. A pattern of thoughts and emotions that can exist in anyone. And that's what makes it so dangerous. Because it means Ghostface isn't limited to one place. It isn't limited to one story. It can happen anywhere. Why now? You know Ghostface isn't just a person. It's not just a killer. It's a legacy, a psychological phenomenon. But there's something even stranger. Ghostface always follows a pattern. Every killing, every phone call, every appearance. Backhand index pointing right, it's never random. And today, we're going to reveal exactly how and why Ghostface operates like a system. By now, you know Ghostface isn't just a person. It's not just a killer. It's a legacy, a psychological phenomenon. But there's something even stranger. Ghostface always follows a pattern. Every killing, every phone call, every appearance. Backhand index pointing right, it's never random. And today, we're going to reveal exactly how and why Ghostface operates like a system. Here's where it gets even darker. Movies, documentaries, and news reports don't just document the killings. They teach the next generation of killers. They show what worked, what didn't, how to escalate fear. This is why Ghostface evolves with each iteration, but never strays from the system. Backhand index pointing right, the system adapts and survives. Here's where it gets even darker. Movies, documentaries, and news reports don't just document the killings. They teach the next generation of killers. They show what worked, what didn't, how to escalate fear. This is why Ghostface evolves with each iteration, but never strays from the system. Backhand index pointing right, the system adapts and survives. But there's more. Some researchers theorize that Ghostface isn't entirely human, not supernatural, but mimetic, meaning the idea itself has power. It spreads from person to person, embedding rules, methods, and the pattern of terror in each new host. The killer becomes a temporary vessel for the system, and when they die, the system persists. Backhand index pointing right, this is why Ghostface always returns. Very person who becomes Ghostface experiences the same transformation. Disconnection, alienation from society, obsession, focus on fear and control, empowerment, thrill of power and domination, integration, mind and mask become one, propagation, they unconsciously pass the system to the next killer. And this cycle is reinforced by fear itself, because fear is contagious. It teaches, instructs, and attracts the next vessel for Ghostface. Very person who becomes Ghostface experiences the same transformation. Disconnection, alienation from society, obsession, focus on fear and control, empowerment, thrill of power and domination, integration, mind and mask become one, propagation, they unconsciously pass the system to the next killer. And this cycle is reinforced by fear itself, because fear is contagious. It teaches, instructs, and attracts the next vessel for Ghostface. Here's the most unsettling part. Ghostface killers think they are making choices, but in reality, the system guides them. Every step, every tactic, every clever move. The mask doesn't just hide identity. It influences decisions, shaping the killer into a near-perfect executor of the system. And that's why Ghostface is always one step ahead. Even when law enforcement thinks they understand what happens when this system encounters a person with extraordinary willpower. Someone who refuses to follow the rules? They disrupt the cycle, temporarily. But the system doesn't die. It waits. It adapts. It finds another host. Because Ghostface isn't a killer. Backhand index pointing right, it's a contagion of terror. At this point, we understand. Ghostface is more than the mask. More than the killer. More than Woodsboro. It's a self-sustaining system of fear and control, waiting for the next person to continue its legacy. But there's one final layer to uncover. The true origin of the system itself, and why it seems almost supernatural. Everything you've seen in Woodsboro, all the killers, all the phone calls, all the terror, it wasn't random. It was guided by something older than anyone could imagine. Ghostface didn't just appear in the 90s. It was born from decades of fear, myth, and psychological manipulation. And today, we're uncovering the true origin. Long before Woodsboro, there were killers who followed patterns eerily similar to Ghostface. Early 20th century murderers who staged fear-driven killings. Legends of masked intruders in small towns. Serial killers who used taunts, letters, and psychological games to torment victims. The pattern was clear. Ghostface is the modern incarnation of a centuries-old archetype. Every new mask wearer is unknowingly tapping into this historical system. Backhand index pointing right, Ghostface isn't just a killer. It's history repeating itself. Here's the key. The mask isn't just a prop. It's a cultural vector of fear. When someone wears it, they inherit decades of psychological instructions. How to stalk, how to terrorize, how to manipulate fear. Even if they've never studied previous killings, the system guides them automatically. It's like a virus that survives through human minds. Every Ghostface is connected. Billy and Stu started the chain. Every copycat after them unknowingly followed the same blueprint. The phone calls, the games, the setup, the dramatic reveal. These aren't coincidences. They're hardwired into the identity of Ghostface itself. And the terrifying part? Backhand index pointing right, anyone with the right combination of fear, trauma, and obsession can become the next vessel. Each killer shares the same psychological traits. Isolation, feeling disconnected from society. Obsession, with fear, control, or revenge. Identity fusion, mask and self merge into one entity. Fear exploitation, uses victims' deepest insecurities. Replication, subconsciously teaches the next generation. This is why Ghostface is unstoppable. It doesn't need to survive physically. Backhand index pointing right, its psychological blueprint survives forever while Ghostface is technically human. The mask and identity behave almost like a supernatural entity. It persists beyond one killer. It adapts to every environment. It manipulates human behavior automatically. Some theorists argue Ghostface is less a person and more a self-sustaining system of terror. A system that uses fear, cultural knowledge, and psychology as its weapons. Why Ghostface always wins. Temporarily, every confrontation ends the same way. The killer is caught or defeated. Fear continues to linger. Another potential vessel emerges. Because the mask doesn't die, the system doesn't die. Even when Woodsboro seems safe, backhand index pointing right, the legend is still alive, waiting for the next person to wear the mask. The iconic phone calls aren't just for drama. They teach control. They build suspense. They manipulate victims' decisions. Even if the killer improvises, the mask ensures that the pattern continues. It's a self-perpetuating mechanism. The more fear it creates, the stronger the system becomes. And here's the final terrifying truth. Ghostface isn't tied to Woodsboro. It isn't tied to one person. It can exist anywhere, anytime. Anyone with the right combination of isolation, obsession, and opportunity can unknowingly tap into the system. And when they do, backhand index pointing right, they become the next Ghostface. So, what is Ghostface really? Not a person. Not just a series of murders. Not a movie villain. Ghostface is a psychological system. A cultural meme of fear. A chain of terror that survives through history. A mask that transforms ordinary people into terrifying killers. And the next time you see the mask, remember, it's not just a costume. It's an idea that can live in anyone. And that is the true origin of Ghostface. So, what is Ghostface really? Not a person. Not just a series of murders. Not a movie villain. Ghostface is a psychological system. A cultural meme of fear. A chain of terror that survives through history. A mask that transforms ordinary people into terrifying killers. And the next time you see the mask, remember, it's not just a costume. It's an idea that can live in anyone. And that is the true origin of Ghostface.